Okay, so before we cover particles, I think it's important to know to understand why Japanese language uses particles. And since I'm speaking in English, it's good to compare with English. And that way, hopefully you understand, first of all, why we use particles, and then when we move on to each function of the particles, I think you can really be able to use it correctly. So with that, let me share. I like to compare a lot with English since I'm teaching this for English speakers usually. So English, word order does matter. Word order in sentences in Japanese, sorry, in English. It is really important. I mean, for example, simple sentence. Takeshi killed Yui, right? Takeshi killed Yui versus if we just flip the word order of these two nouns and say Yui killed Takeshi, the meaning will be completely opposite, right? Or, for example, if I say something like sent I sent him a letter, for example. If I, for example, move this to here, I sent a letter him. This could mean I sent a letter to this person who is letter. I sent a letter him, whoever him is. I sent him to a letter. If we flip the word order. But normal sentence, this one, I sent him a letter, right? Is I sent him this letter, right? So the meaning will be totally different in English, meaning word order does really matter, right? Japanese, as long as we keep two two rules, word order doesn't matter. What I mean is like these two sentences, right? Takeshi killed Yui. It is okay in Japanese to say Takeshi killed Yui, Yui killed Takeshi, and still mean the same thing. Or I sent him a letter, I sent a letter him, can still mean the same thing. We can shuffle word order and still mean one thing. That's what Japanese is. How? Particles. That's why we use particles. For example, back to this sentence, right? Takeshi killed Yui. Takeshi is the subject of the sentence. Kill Yui. Yui is the object of Takeshi killing, the action of killing. Yui is the object, right? In English, we don't need to specify saying like, hey, Takeshi is the subject. Okay, Yui is the object. We don't need to do anything. We don't need to add anything to let people know who read your sentence what you mean because of the word order. Usually in English, the first noun is the subject, usually, right? So word order does matter. Okay, so Japanese, instead of word order, caring about which noun comes first, we say something like, okay, we're gonna add this particle, wa, and this wa will say that, hey, this noun that's connected to me is the subject of the sentence. And then for UE2, we'll be like, O. We pronounce it as O, even though it's written as W. Wo. When we put O to a noun as a particle, we basically saying, hey, this one, Yui, is the object of whatever the verb is, right? So with that, because we already have these particles that say people, hey, this is the subject, hey, this is the object, we can shuffle the word order and say, Yui killed Takeshi, but Yui o Takeshi wa kill. And that would mean the same thing. Okay? So with that, just imagine how important word order is in English. That's how important it is. That's how much important it is in Japanese when it comes to particles. If you mess up the particles, you can mess up the entire meaning of the sentence you want to say, right? Just like these examples that I shared. If you, for example, make a mistake and put the particle that means that signifies object of the noun, right? Then you're making Takeshi being killed. If you put wa here, then you're making Yui as a subject of the sentence, right? So with that, it's really important for you to understand the function of each particle so that for each noun, you get to pick the correct particle so that as a whole sentence, whoever reads your sentences or speak to you will get what you mean. Okay? So with that, I'd like to move on. Let's cover some particles. Sorry, I forgot to mention the second rule. I said um, we can shuffle the word order in Japanese as long as we keep two rules. One is the correct particle mixed with each noun. Okay, so you just have to just a basic but really important fact about particles. Particles only attach to nouns. Okay, noun. So with this, first rule is to put the correct particle for each noun. So we're gonna have list of particles that we're gonna cover today. It's like a puzzle basically. For each noun, you have to pick the correct puzzle piece and then put it for each noun. After you put each correct noun, sorry, each correct particle to each noun, then that's become one group. So you can shuffle the word order together with the particle. Okay, you can't leave the particles out. Second rule, main verb is at the end of a sentence. Okay, so Japanese word order, I mean, I just talked about Japanese not needing to worry about word order, but we do have just one rule. Verb is at the end of a sentence. Aside from verbs, you can shuffle any way you want. But verb does come at the end. So that's the only uh, restraint, I guess. Okay, so with these two rules, we can shuffle any way we want. I'm just gonna show you some example. Like I study Japanese and Korean with Takeshi at the library at 3 p.m. Okay, so just to remind you, each noun, right, has to have a particle, right? Let's put this for now. Okay. And then the main verb has to be at the end, right? So with this, basically, all these nouns that I circled, we can shuffle, okay? For example, I'm still talking English just to show how it sounds like in English, and it's going to sound bad, but I think it's going to be a good demonstration of, you know, how flexible Japanese can be. So for example, I can switch these word orders and be like Takeshi, Japanese, Korean, 3 p.m., library, I, study. That'll be the same meaning. Let's shuffle a little bit more. Maybe we can just go in the opposite direction. 3 p.m., library, Takeshi, Korean, Japanese, I, study. All of these sentences that I have said will be the same meaning as long as we put the correct particle, because particle is the one that tell, hey, this noun's relationship with the main verb is this. Okay? So that's how important particles are. Okay. With this, let's move on. Gonna start sharing some particles. I'm gonna share the main particles wa, ga, o, ni, re, mo, e, even though this is written as he. Same with this one. This is written as ha, but when we use this as a grammatical particle, we pronounce it as wa. This one too, it's pronounced as e when it's used as a particle. Normally he. Okay, we're gonna start with these main particles. Okay. Wa and ga. Let's start with this. I'm gonna put these together because these two have really similar functions, okay? And that's why people get really confused, use it incorrectly and stuff, okay? That's why there's some videos talking about the difference between wa and ga. So I like to do that. There is a function that both particles have. I'm sorry. And that is, oops, mark subject of the sentence. Mark the subject of the sentence. Okay? Subject meaning whoever does the action that the sentence says. I play baseball. Subject of that sentence is I. Takeshi and Yuko play soccer. Who are the subjects? Takeshi and Yuko. Both are subjects, right? So in terms of marking subject of the sentence, yes, wa and ga both have this function. But there's a second point on this. Still within the same function that these particles mark the subject of a sentence, but there's slight difference, and that's emphasis. While at the same time, wa tells whatever noun that it's connected to that is the subject, it also emphasizes one way or another, the two options. That's my cat. That's me-chan. Subject or Topic. Okay, let me talk about this. Okay, because this one too, I think it's important for you to know linguistically. I think it's always important to learn languages as a linguist and then speak. So for English speakers, like you know, the students usually are English speakers, right? Many mistakes people make is they try to do literal translation between English and Japanese. Oops, English and Japanese. Just literal translation. I mean, of course, some people know some differences, but this mistake many students do. What the mistake is English and Japanese. Languages are not only about languages, it's about the whole culture of the country or the people who speak the language, right? You have to know history of the place where people speak. So it's really a huge thing. It's like I consider one language as one living being. It's just it changes, it's living. It's really deep. So you can't just directly translate because the culture of English speaking countries and culture of Japanese speaking country is totally different. So many times it could come off in the wrong way. So that's why my recommendation is for you guys, English speakers, change to your linguist brain. First, be able to analyze your own language linguistically. If you can analyze your own language, then you can use that to other languages using their culture and rules. That way, you can avoid making mistakes, thinking your culture can be is same as the culture and the language you're trying to speak. Okay, so with this, I do try to teach linguistically from a linguistic perspective, and I do believe that it's really important uh, for any language learner, especially after the age where we stop being able to be a native speaker. Usually after age of 15 to 18, we won't be able to become a native speaker of any language, usually. So, but after that, since we can't become a native speaker of any language, it really depends on how we can analyze our own language and then translate to other languages. I think that ability will be really important. Okay, enough of that. Okay, linguistically, any kind of sentence can be just this is just one way of one opinion. Any sentence in any language can be simplified into two, and that's subject and topic. Oops, topic. Okay, subject. Again, earlier I said whoever does something, that's actually Selena back there. And topic is whatever the subject does. Okay, so like I play baseball, then I is the subject, topic is play baseball. Right? Um, weather is nice today. Weather is the subject. Nice today is the topic, talking about the weather, right? So with that, any sentence can be usually simplified into these two, subject and topic. Okay? Just like how I did in English. In Japanese is the same way. We can simplify it in these two ways. Okay? Japanese, we put a particle here, attaching to the subject to say, hey, this is the subject. And This is where this one comes from. We can either put wa or ga here. Why? Because the first function of these two particles is mark the subject of a sentence. So by putting wa or ga here to this now, we are telling other people that, hey, this is the subject. This person is the subject. Okay? But then here we're going to move on. Emphasis. Okay? If we put wa, then the emphasis will be on the topic side. Okay? If we use ga, then we put in the emphasis on the subject side. Okay? So with this. The old Takeshi, for example. Let's do some simple sentence. It's one sentence, right? I killed Takeshi. I'm gonna say this one sentence in two different situations. And I'll ask you if you can see the difference in based on the situations. Okay, situation A. You just met your friend on Monday, and your friend is like, "Hey, how was your weekend? What'd you do?" Right? And then you're like, "Oh, I killed Takeshi." And your friend will be like, "Oh shit, okay," and hopefully call the police, right? Okay, so that's situation A. In that kind of situation where your friend's like, "Hey, what's up? What'd you do?" And then you say, "I killed Takeshi." Situation B, totally different situation. You see a police officer looking for the culprit, the murderer. Why? Because police already knows that Takeshi died. Someone killed Takeshi, right? But what they don't know is who. They don't know who killed Takeshi. That's why the police is asking people around, hey, do you know Takeshi or anyone who might have killed Takeshi, right? Seeing that, you start to feel guilty and decide to confess. And that's when you're like, hey, I killed Takeshi. That's situation B. Okay, these two situations, I said the same thing. I killed Takeshi. Do you see any difference in was how I said to or the meaning that I could have given, right? Did you see any difference based on these two differences? I'm pretty sure you did see a difference. Okay, this is when wa and ga comes in, right? Emphasis meaning whichever side that has new information, usually, you would naturally want to emphasize, right? If you already know your friend knows that Takeshi is killed, maybe like you don't need to talk. You don't need to be like, hey, did you know? Right? Okay. So whichever side that has new information is naturally important, and that's where naturally we want to emphasize, right? These two situations, A and B. Let's go back to A. Your friend is like, hey, what'd you do this past weekend? Yeah, I killed Takeshi. In this case, which side is more important, subject or topic? In this case, subject meaning I is the subject. Kill Takeshi is the topic, right? Which side is more important in this situation A? Pretty sure you'll say B, kill Takeshi, right? Because like your friend asked you, hey, what'd you do? Maybe the person asked because your friend didn't know what you did. And also the I in this sentence is not really important. It's obvious when I say I in front of someone, it's pretty obvious I means me. It's an obvious fact. So we don't need to emphasize here. So in this casual situation where we're catching up with each other, this is new information, meaning we want to emphasize this, meaning it's better to put wa here to attach to I. Then what it does is, while at the same time, wa tells people that, hey, the noun that I'm connected to is the subject of the sentence, but also, even though I'm attached to the subject is not that important. The topic is more important. That's what wa will do when you put a wa after a noun. Okay. On the other hand, situation B. Police already knows Takeshi is killed. What they don't know is who. That's why they're asking. And then finally, you confess by saying, hey, I killed Takeshi. I mean, I already kind of said in a different tone, right? In English, we can change tone to, have an emphasis on a specific side or word. So here, I'm sorry, I'm really messy. I am a messy person, so bear with me. Okay, so in the case of situation B and the sentence I killed Takeshi, right? This information is not important. Like I said, police already knows that Takeshi is killed. What they don't know is here. So for you in that situation to say I killed Takeshi, this I is the new info to the other person. So naturally you want to emphasize this part by putting ga. That's what it means here. Ga also marks the subject, but then also saying, hey, that this subject is the most important for the sentence. Okay? And I think this is one of the reasons why it's difficult for English speakers to understand the difference. No, I mean, yeah, understand the importance of particles, but especially the difference between wa and ga. Why? Because, well, first of all, in this case, between subject and topic, English doesn't need to put anything. Again, word order matters in English. So usually the first noun that you see in an English sentence is the subject. That's one point. So just the existence of particles is a little bit hard to understand. But second point, like we talked about with this sentence, situation A, most likely people will, if they have to say this sentence, they will just say casually, like, I killed Takeshi. But then in situation B, with this situation, people will most likely say something like, I killed Takeshi, emphasizing on the I. English, we put emphasis by putting, uh, changing the tone, right? I killed Takeshi, which doesn't show when you write it. Of course, you can capitalize everything to show the emphasis. That's one way to do. But in this case, we cannot specify that difference, the nuance, difference between wa and ga in English in written form. This is another reason why it's difficult for English speakers to understand the difference between wa and ga. Okay, it's not done yet. So I talk a lot and I talk for a long time. I try to explain too too long. So excuse me for that. You can, speed up, change the speed, and yeah, hopefully I'm not wasting your time. Okay, there is another function, okay, that only Wa has and God doesn't have. Okay, this is another important thing. People make mistakes. Oh, okay. And this function is introducing a topic. And this, I know this sounds confusing, right? Okay. Simply put, one good way to translate is as for blank. For example, as for sounds formal and we don't use it too much in casual speech and in casual setting in English. But let me show some examples. It can be like as for or for. For example, it can be like as for lunch, I like to eat ramen. Okay. In this sentence, who's the subject? What's the subject of the sentence? I, but then what's this? As for lunch. This one, introducing a topic. We're given the topic. When it comes to lunch, I'd like to eat ramen. As far as lunch goes, I'd like to eat ramen. Okay? So in that case, lunch is not the subject of the sentence. It's just introducing a topic. Okay? How do we do that in Japanese? By putting wa, and we can make lunch as the topic. As for lunch, I'll eat ramen. As for dinner, I'll eat cereal or whatever, right? So that's what this second function does that only wa has, ga doesn't have. In other words, his job is only to mark the subject. Ga just finds the subject of the sentence and attaches, and that's the only job. Wa has two jobs. How do we figure out which function each wa is using? Context. Okay. So for example, I am assuming those people who watch this video already knows hiragana, but I'm gonna try to write in Romaji as well. Okay. Sorry about my handwriting. My handwriting is really bad. Okay. This one is a tricky one, right? When we first simply try to translate, 日曜日は okay, subject of the sentence. 日曜日 is the subject. ラーメンを食べます. Or is the object marker, which we'll learn later. 食べます, eat, right? Okay. So if you only know the first function, that wa marks the subject of the sentence, then you will translate this sentence as this person called Sunday, 日曜日 means Sunday, eats ramen. This person called Sunday eats ramen. Which, there could be someone whose name is Sunday, but usually, with this situation, you might be like, okay, this sounds weird. it might have translated wrong. That's when you move on to the second function to see if the second function makes more sense, this one. Okay? Usually this meaning, this function is mostly used. Sometimes the second one is used, just sometimes. So it's always okay to default to the first function, and then whenever it doesn't make sense, uh, try the second function. So with this, let's try the second function. As for Sunday, blank eats ramen. Who's the subject? If we make Sunday as the topic, right, then we don't have any subject. In Japanese, you might already know, it's pretty um, well-known fact. In Japanese, we omit subjects many times when it's obvious. Just like how I explained earlier, I killed Takeshi in situation A. Hey, what'd you do this past weekend? Oh, I killed Takeshi. In Japanese, of course, like English, many times we still need to put subject even when it's obvious, but Japanese, when it's obvious, in this case, like I, of course, that means I, we can omit I, just say kill Takeshi. We do that. I mean, English too, you can technically do, but it's re usually in a colloquial way, casual, not officially. But in Japanese, we can omit subjects and use them in formal documents and stuff. So that's yeah, we can basically officially do it. But with that, of course, it depends on the context, but we can put I, that's as hidden subject, and translate the sentence as for Sunday, I will eat ramen. That makes more sense than this person called Sunday, or literal meaning will be Sunday eats ramen, right? So context is the important factor when it comes to figuring out which function to use. Okay, if you have any question, let me know in the comments. I might look at it, I might not. I'm really sensitive to people talking shit about me, so I might not read the comments, but yeah, I might. Okay, so that's the wa and ga. Where did it go? Okay, let's move on to o. I already kind of shared, but o. It's important. This one is really important. I do have one thing to explain that's really important, so please stick with me. O, we basically don't pronounce the W, so just say O, which is the same pronunciation as this O, right? So we use this O specifically only grammatically as a particle. We use this O when it's part of a name or adjective or verbs or adverbs, those stuff. When it's part of a word, we use O. Okay? O is an object marker. Okay, so here, object. I want you to correctly understand what object is linguistically. Okay, like I said, understanding languages linguistically is really important so that we can objectively apply to any language that you're learning. I already deleted what I wrote, so I'm not gonna be able to share, but linguistically, what's an object? Well, maybe when I ask you, like, hey, when you hear the word object, what kind of stuff do you picture in your mind, right? I think typical thing that people picture is just a thing. Any kind of thing is an object. And that is correct. But linguistically, it's not only a thing. I mean, of course, depends on what the definition of thing is. What people usually imagine when it comes to object is tangible thing. Okay. But linguistically, object can be for tangible things or intangible things. Intangible. Okay. I'll show some example. Okay. Let's see. I kicked, oops, Takeshi. Yeah, I always use Takeshi. Okay. I kicked Takeshi. In this case, well, I guess let me do a little bit in a maybe better way. Okay. So let's say you're playing soccer and you're kicking this soccer ball. In this case, soccer ball is the object, right? Soccer ball. What if you were kicking someone? Then this someone can be an object too. Human or living being, right? Living being can be an object. Or if um you're kicking your depression away, if you're trying to kick your depression away, depression, something that you can't see, intangible thing. Sorry, my sp spelling and handwriting is just fucked up. Okay, so you can also kick depression away. So depression can be an object, right? So basically, object, simply put, if you want to just have an image like object is a thing, then I would rather you memorize it as object is anything. Literally anything can be object. I want you to understand object this way, okay? Many people do make mistakes with the particle or not using the particle or, and that's because they don't have this correct understanding of what object is. Okay? So with that, for example, I like to do this exercise with my students. I'm gonna say it's like random thing, right? You're gonna have to come up with a verb that can make whatever thing I say as an object. So for example, like let's start with the easy thing. Okay, food. What kind of verb can you use to make food an object? Yeah, eat, right? That's pretty easy. Or even like cook. I cook food, right? Anything else? I like throw away to throw away food. That one too, we're making food as the object. I study food. This one too, making food as the object, right? Let's try, for example, mm, let's do a difficult one. Air. What kind of verb can make air as the object? I think breathe, right? Breathe. Anything else? Purify. inhale, exhale, these stuff, right? Okay, so you can kind of tell here too, anything can be object. Depends on verbs, right? What kind of verb you're using. That's the particle or whatever thing, anything, right? If you attach or to whatever noun, then you're making that whatever noun as the object of the verb, okay? Which is really important. So I don't want you to make mistakes. Okay, next one. We're gonna do ni and det. Ni and det too. Many people make mistakes between ni and det. In one aspect, it is confusing. These two does have a similar thing, okay? So I get it. So I want you to focus for these two particles because we do use these two a lot. It is a it those are pretty popular particles. So let's start with ni. Okay. I teach ni differently a little bit compared to other teachers or textbooks. It's up to you. You can try other teachers or textbooks, but I do think I guess I'm not gonna say anything. Okay, so ni ni equals destination. Destination in terms of time and place. Okay, this is where the difference is compared to other teachers and stuff. They teach these two time and place different separately, but it is from the same function. Ni is about destination, destination in terms of time, destination is in terms of space or place, right? Okay. Place is easier, so let's just get it done with, right? Place, where you go to, where you drive to, where you swim to, where you walk to, run to, whatever movement, right? Wherever you go to, that place is the destination, right? So whatever that place, you just add ni. And that way you're telling people, hey, this is the destination of this verb that I used, walk. I walked here. I drove here. Okay. Pretty simple. So this place destination is really simple. Okay. Time destination. So what do you picture when you hear time in terms, sorry, destination in terms of time? Destination in terms of time. I want you to picture that there's only one destination. Usually that's what people picture, even like place, right? I go to school. School is the destination, just one destination, right? So time too, destination in terms of time. One destination in terms of time, meaning specific time. Okay? That's when we put ni to whatever specific time related word that we use. Like at 10 o'clock, I sleep. On Monday, oops, Monday I go to school. In July, I swim in the ocean. In 2025, I'll work out twice a week. So these time related words are all specific in terms of how many destinations, right? Just one destination, 10 p.m., Monday, July 2025. Specific enough, one destination. So after these words, we put ni. Okay. I know textbooks and, some teachers and stuff, I mean, it is what they say, like, need similar to at, like at 10 o'clock, right? But then, like, for this place destination in English is based usually to, right? I go to school, right? So I don't usually recommend people just simply memorizing each particle with the, what is it, the English version of the word. I don't recommend that. I want you to, again, first understand Japanese linguistically, objectively, and then be able to use it. Have that your linguist mind in between as a good filter. Okay, so I want you to have this image for the particle ni. Just one destination, meaning in terms of time, specific time, in terms of place, destination. What I The reason why I'm really emphasizing this one destination is because this time ni, we do have some exceptions where we cannot use ni in these three situations. And these all three exceptions make sense if you know the true, function of the particle, which is destination, one specific destination, right? Ex So in other words, you should know that these exceptions are basically for time related words that are not specific enough. Because it's not specific enough, meaning because it's not about just one destination, we cannot use ni. With that, let's cover the first one. Is the question word when in Japanese, itsu. Okay? When you think about it, when you ask, hey, when did you go to bed last night? Right? Since you're asking when, you don't know when exactly, meaning there's lots of possible destinations, right? There's too many options, too many destinations. It's not one specific destination. Because of that, we cannot use ni. Then you might wonder, then what do we do? Do we put a different particle instead? No, we just simply don't use any particle. Okay? So just itsu. That's the first one. Second one, repetitive. Repetitive words. So this one, basically in English, every variation, right? Every day, every week, every month, every year. These words basically mean you repeatedly do something because you repeatedly, repeatedly do something. There's many destinations in this case too, right? It's not just one specific destination. It's not just one time. You do it every day, every minute, whatever. Because there are too many possible destinations, this one too, we cannot use ni. Again, when you can't use ni, you don't need to put any particle. No particle, just the word. Okay, last one. Last exception is time related words that are relative to now. Okay, let me explain this. I mean, I guess I can just share the example words first, like today, tomorrow, yesterday, next week, last month. All of these words are relative to now. What I mean is, let's actually just start over. Okay, so this is timeline, this is now. Okay, and today, oh, yeah, today is Christmas. So December 25th. Okay, so so let's pretend right now is December 25th. When I say yesterday, what day do I mean? Since right now is 25th. When I say yesterday, it means 24th, right? Yesterday means 24th. But then let's say I go to bed, sleep the whole night, wake up the next morning, which is the 26th, right? And then I'm here now, right? I say yesterday again, the same word, yesterday. What day would that be? Yesterday, for when you're on 26th, would be 25th, right? With that, yesterday could be 24th or 25th or any day, depending on when now is, because all of these words are connected to now. Okay? Next something, last something. Tomorrow, yesterday, day after tomorrow, day before yesterday. These stuff, right? All of these have, in that sense, many destinations based on when now is. It's just too vague because it depends on when now is. Because there are many possible destinations, we cannot use ni, we don't use anything. So with that, you should be able to really correctly, logically understand these three exceptions. Okay? I don't want you to just memorize it blindly. I want you to understand linguistically so that it's a lot easier for you to remember when you have to remember, right? Okay. So this is ni. Just remember, just one function, one main function, and that's destination. Destination in terms of two categories, time and space. Space meaning place, somewhere you go. Time, it has to be specific because ni is destination. Okay? All right. We're gonna move on to de. De is a little bit confusing. De has two different functions. Okay? First one, place of action, place of activity, place of event. Basically, something happens at somewhere, right? And after that, somewhere is where you put de. That's what it means, place of action, where you do something. Okay? Okay, this function is the one that gets confused with the earlier particle we just learned, ni destination. Why? Because, like we said, destination, one of the meanings is place. There also has place. We also put there after a place. So that's why people get confused. Okay, ni and de both we put after place. Which one do I put for what situation, right? Of course, the key is this one. Place of action, activity, event. Basically, something happens. Something has to happen at somewhere, the place you're talking about, right? So, for example, okay, I go to school, I study at school, right? Both sentences, the word school, is a place. So there's options for there and ni, right? Okay. I mean, these are pretty easy, simple, so you should be able to tell that for I go to school, for this one we put ni because it's the destination. I go to school, right? School is the destination, so ni. And then I study at school, right? I study. You're doing something at the place. I'm studying at school because you're doing something there, right? But sometimes it can be confusing. In that case, I do have one simple question you can ask yourself to figure out. Yeah. How many actions do you need to complete the sentence that you're talking about? Ask yourself this, okay? Okay. For example, first one, I go to school. How many action do you need to complete this sentence? I go to school. That's it. End, which means just one action. I go and that's it. Okay. What about I study at school? Well, you first have to be at school, whether it be like you just going to school or you might be already at school, but you first have to be at school. That's the first action. And then study is the second action, right? So with that, when you need two actions to complete, that's that place of action, place of activity, place of event. When you need just one action, I go to school, I run to school, I drive to school, I swim to school, all one action, meaning destination, meaning need. Okay, so this is one good simple question you can ask whenever you get confused. So that's the first function of det. Okay, well, maybe before I move on to the second function of det, um, just want to briefly explain like activity event. For example, like concert and stuff, right? If you want to say like there's a concert at the school today, then school is the place where concert happens, right? So we put there after school. Okay. So that kind of event. Event two, something has to happen at the place you're talking about. Activity two, there's like I don't know, like a dance party or whatever at my house, whatever, right? Something has to happen. Okay. Second function of the by means of. This one is This one too, I want you to understand this way. Um, because I'm not going to go that way. Never mind. Okay, let me explain. They're just simply memorize as by means of, okay? I know by means of we don't usually use that much in English unless it's like in a formal situation and stuff, right? So it might not sound that familiar, but we'll get there later, okay? By means of. There's many kinds of by means of. For example, I go to school by bus. This one, if you have to paraphrase using by means of, we can say I go to school by means of bus, right? Watch movies on my phone. I watch movies on my phone. This one too, we can paraphrase, replacing on with by means of. I watch movies by means of phone. By means of my phone. I know it sounds weird, but we can technically still do it, right? I eat with chopsticks, for example. I eat everything, anything with chopsticks, including ice cream and stuff. This one, we can also paraphrase using I eat by means of chopsticks, right? Um, what else? I guess we can stop here. Okay. Any kind of by means of variations, we can use this particle. That what's confusing is if you try to memorize particle literally with the English direct translation, don't do that. Why? Because there's too many options here, right? By, on, with, and um, we do talk about the particle to later, but to, one of the functions is with. So that's why if you memorize as is in English, then you'll definitely get confused with other particles. That's why I don't want you to do that. I just want you to simply memorize there as by means of. Okay? Here's my recommendation. Always, okay, so kind of similar to when we covered the particle wa, right? Here. Wa has two functions. This one marking the subject and the other one introducing topic. My recommendation for this was to always default to this function first because this is most commonly used. And whenever it doesn't make sense, you move on to second function to see if that makes sense. Same thing there. This is most commonly used, place of action. So I would always encourage you to start with this translation, see if it makes sense. Whenever it doesn't make sense, move on to this one, the second function, but just start with this translation by means of, right? But when you have to like translate for someone, do natural translation from by means of, just paraphrase in a more natural way. Okay? You don't need to always stick with by means of because it's not used that often in English, right? So, with that, for example, if you try to translate a Japanese sentence, um, I guess I shouldn't do negative example sentence because account might be banned or something. Let me try to figure out positive sentence. Um mm. Can't think of anything positive. I guess it's okay if this video is not monetized or whatever. It's like it's okay. I can only think of negative sentence. Okay. I killed Takeshi. Takeshi again. Well, I'm pretty sure I already used killed, so if this video is well, it's not gonna be monetized anyway, so yeah, that's fine. I killed Takeshi. Sorry. Let's do the opposite way. I'm sorry. Okay. 私はパーリコン。ナイフでパーリコン。たけしを殺した。Okay? 私はナイフでたけしを殺した。Okay. This one. When you try to translate, right? Okay. 私は okay. Um, my teacher told me to start with the subject meaning. So I am the subject. I. ナイフで place of action or knife. The knife. So I mean, knife could be a place of action, but let's try with the place of action activity or event, right? Knife as a place. Takeshi or object, right? Takeshi as an object. Koroshita. The verb koroshita means killed, right? Okay, so with this context, with all the nouns, so far we have I, knife, Takeshi, killed, right? You can kind of easily figure out that knife shouldn't be a place of action. In this case, place of killing. Like that would be like, um, I don't know, like um on top of a huge knife, you killed Takeshi, right? This is the only situation where, using there to mean place of action can make sense, right? Which is not that possible. So that's when you're like, okay, pretty sure it's not this function. Let's move on to next function by means of. And let's use that to translate. First try. I, okay. I killed Takeshi by means of knife. Okay, that makes a lot more sense, right? And then, like I said, by means of is not used that often in English anymore. I mean, only polite or formal situation, right? So let's paraphrase it in a more natural way, natural translation. With that, you can be like, I killed Takeshi with a knife, right? So that's the steps that I want you to have. First, try with place of action, activity, event, function with there. If that doesn't make sense, move on to the next function by means of, but you don't need to always stick with that by means of translation. With that, you can do natural translation after that. Okay. That's that. We're almost done. Sorry, it's taken a while. It does take a while to explain all the particles. I'm trying to, explain in detail all the particles. That's why it's taking a long time. Okay. More, okay. Let's do first. Oh, totally forgot about no. Okay. Let's do because is really easy. when we covered the particle ni, right? Okay. I said the ni is destination in terms of space and time. For space, it's a place. This function, right? Specifically about place. Same as it, but polite version. Okay. So air is just same as one of the functions of ni. So it's really minor. And also, it's only polite version of ni, right? But then the reality is we use ni even in polite situations. We only use air when it's really polite, formal situation. So we don't use that much. So that's why I don't even, I mean, yeah, we don't use it at all. Well, okay. This is the conclusion. I started with conclusion. Okay. Let me explain why it is that. Why it is the polite version of need, the destination need, the place need. Air is more for direction, really close to the word toward. I'm walking toward my school. Does that mean I have to reach school or not? I don't need to, right? I could be walking toward school, but my destination could be a convenience store before I reach the school, right? It's just the same direction, right? Or yeah, when I say I'm walking towards school, I could mean that I am going to reach the school, right? Either is possible, right? Meaning the word toward is vague, right? And vague is an important word when it comes to Japanese culture. Culture comes in. Japanese culture, the more vague you are, the more polite you are. This is what I hate about this culture. Yeah. I always prefer straightforwardness. If you don't like someone, just talk to that person. If you want to talk shit about someone, talk to the actual person, right? But in Japanese, being vague is considered a really highly valued culture, I guess. Yeah. So this one, I'm heading towards school. It's vague. So because of Japanese culture, it has become polite. So that's why it comes here. It's basically the polite version of the destination place ni. So we can always replace ni with et if you want to. But like I said, we don't use et that much, even in polite situations and stuff. It's really formal, like in poems and stuff, lyrics and stuff. Okay. So in daily life, it's safe to assume we never use it. But of course, when you sometimes read books and stuff, they might use. So of course it's good to know at least. But that's about it. As long as you know when it comes and understand, you're good. You don't need to even think about trying to use it. Okay? So that's it. Mo mo This is another important one, and many people do make mistakes with mo. So even when you think you already know that more means too or also. Please listen because I am gonna point out some stuff, some common mistakes people make with the particle more. Okay. I am Japanese. Takeshi is Japanese too. Okay. These two sentences, right? When we analyze linguistically, this information is the same info. This information is different info, contrasting info, right? Between I and Takeshi. More only sticks to right after this contrasting info, okay? Don't put it after the same info. This is one common mistake people make. Just whenever you get confused or like whenever you feel like using more, ask yourself, is this the different contrasting info that I'm putting more on, right? If you find it's same, like for example, I study at 10 o'clock. I study at 11 too, right? This is the contrasting info, right? Mm, I watch movies on TV. I watch movies on phone too. TV and phone is the contrasting info. So after phone is where we put more. Okay. So just remember, compare. Well, first be able to analyze which info is the same, which is different, and just put after different one. Pretty simple if you remember this step. Okay. This one, when we say this in Japanese, 私は日本人です。Right? 私は日本人です。Takeshi is Japanese too. Takeshi も日本人です。Right? So you can see here, I put more after the contrasting info. But you see one more difference, I think, comparing with the first sentence, right? Is the particle wa. Particle wa is gone, or it's replaced with more. Okay, so more is pretty special particle where more can more can replace wa, ga, o. These three particles. Whatever the different info is, if the particle before putting more is either wa or ga or o, instead of adding more, you replace that with more. Okay? Why? Because more more is a really flexible particle that can cover that already basically more can change itself to have the main functions, only the main functions, meaning subject and object. These are usually the most important, uh, you know, word types. Right? Subject, which particle or particles? Wa. Object, which particle? O. So these three. So this one too, I don't recommend necessarily to just blindly memorize the mo can replace wa, ga, o. Think of it as mo as a really flexible, capable particle that can do some other people's jobs, but only the main jobs. This person is, capable, but, haven't done like one specific job for a long time to the point this person can do any kind of detailed job. No, this person is just like, well versed, a little bit shallow, but, you know, um, diverse, I guess, right? So this particle can do the main stuff, in this case, subject and object, right? But that's it. Just have that image. And then with that, you'll be like, okay, yeah, more can only cover for the main people. That's subject, object, subject, wa, ga, object, o. So with that, you can logically remember those particles, okay? That's why sorry, instead of saying Takeshi wa mo Nihonjin desu, we say Takeshi mo Nihonjin desu. Let's use a situation with o, right? Like for example, I play games. ゲームをします。Right? Um, I also play soccer. サッカサッカーもします。Usually we put o, right? Because soccer is the object of doing, right? So o, but then remember mo can act as the o particle, so we can replace o with mo. So サッカーもします。Okay? With that, you might want to ask, what about other particles? For example, like ni, de, that we have covered, right? These are not major enough that more can replace. More still needs their help to say like, hey, this one that I'm connected to is about destination. Hey, this one that I'm connected to is about by means of a place of action. Hey, this one is about direction. More still needs their help. Meaning, in this case, we have to add more instead of replacing them with more. Okay? For example, I study at home, right? 家、sorry, my handwriting is terrible. 家で勉強します。I also study at school. In this case, contrasting info is this one, right? Home and school. So this is where you put more, but then study at school. School is the place of action. I study at school. So 学校で this function more doesn't have, so more does need this help. So we add more after. So schoolでも勉強します。学校でも勉強します。Okay? So make sure you know that. That's the important part. Okay? One more thing with more common mistake people make is um let's see. Some people for example, let's say let me uh write some sentences. Okay. For example, one person says like, well, maybe you ask your friend, hey, what'd you do today? And then your friend's like, hey, yeah, I went to school. Also, I studied with Takeshi, right? This also, this also, people just replace with more. But like I have warned many times, I guess. Don't just directly memorize, right? Sorry, more equals two or also. Don't just blindly memorize it. That's why this kind of mistakes happen, right? But like I explained here, right? More is used when there is same information among more than two, I mean, at least two sentences. I mean, it can be in one sentence if you connect them with the conjunctions. When there's same information as well as contrasting information, and then after the contrasting information is where we put more, right? That's what we learned, right? These two sentences, I went to school. I studied with Takeshi. Is there any same information? I mean, I is the same, but nothing else, right? Right? Okay. In this case, we cannot use more. We do have to have same info. With the same info, we are contrasting two different info. Um, you might wonder then. I mean, I guess, let me see. Does this make sense? Are my examples bad? Well, let me explain this way, okay? Okay, so with that, this also is not the to meaning. This also is used as conjunction, meaning in addition, right? I went to school. In addition to that, I studied with Takeshi, right? Completely completely different information among the two sentences. Okay. This also, since it's used in as this meaning in addition, we just use the Japanese version of in addition, which can be そして implied, can be それで in casual setting. Okay. So use these stuff instead. Okay. That's one thing I want you to be careful about. Okay. We almost said just two more, I think. Two more and we're done. Okay. And the last two are fairly easy compared to the earlier ones that we covered. Let's cover with the easy one. Oh, I did cover earlier that it means with or together with. Like I went to school with my friend. I ate with my parents. Those when you do something together with someone. Together with whatever noun, right? Whoever that is, that's where you put the particle to. Okay? For example, I study in Japanese is 私は勉強します。If you don't say I study with Takeshi, 私はたけしと勉強します。Okay, second function of to. It's and connecting two nouns when you list nouns. Okay? For example, I ate sushi and ramen today. Sushi to ramen. Let's actually cover that because it's important. Okay. I ate sushi and ramen today. Okay. I is a subject, just the wa, because this side is more important, I think, without context, right? 私は ate verb, move at the end of a sentence, sushi and ramen. Okay. You have to put to connect these two. And when you connect using to, just consider them as one group. It is still two separate nouns, but one group of nouns. So we do need a particle after this one group of noun, right? What particle? Well, I ate them, right? Sushi and ramen are the stuff that I ate. So these are the object of eating. So put o. And then today, kyo. Today is a word that's relative to now, so we don't need to put any particle. And of course, if you want to list more than two nouns, you can continue to add by using to. But again, like we just did here, we do need a particle after the last noun, right? Okay. So these are the to. Two functions for to. Last one. You're almost done. Okay. No. That's why it's similar to to. Similar. Yeah. Let me start with conclusion first. First, looks like math. The N means noun. So noun one and noun two equals noun three. This basically means combine into one, right? That's why the end result is only one noun, right? This is what it does. Noun one of noun two equals noun three. It combines two or more nouns into one noun, okay? Noun one, no, noun two means noun one's noun two in English. For example, たけしの財布。Takeshi's wallet, right? This is what I mean by one noun. Okay, Takeshi's wallet. When I say this, right? Is it talking about Takeshi or is it talking about wallet? It's basically talking about wallet, right? It's Takeshi's wallet. Takeshi is just extra information talking about the wallet, right? So even though this Takeshi is a noun, it basically became like helping noun to the main noun, which is wallet. Okay. There is another way that you can translate um, no. So let me just do this. A, no, B. One way is, like I said, A's B is one way to translate. Or another way is using of. But if you use this translation, the order is flipped. So you want to be careful with that. So I would stick with the first one first, and then whenever it's more natural to change to of, just, make sure um, I mean, okay. The reason why I encourage people to use this translation first is that it's so that you get to understand the structure in English with your brain, right? From that English, you paraphrase to another English sentence. Because you're paraphrasing from your native language to another sentence in your native language, you don't make mistakes. Your brain will automatically flip the order. Like for example, um, this is Takeshi's wallet. If you have to paraphrase it using of, how would you paraphrase it? This is a wallet of Takeshi, right? So that's my recommendation. Don't common mistake is students they memorize it this way first, okay? Because and then they forget that the order is flipped. So they just, for example, like say something like 大学、大学の日本 Universities Japan. What does that mean? Universities Japan. It's just flipped. It's wrong. 日本の大学, right? 日本 has to come first. Japan's university. Okay. That means university in Japan, right? So my recommendation all the time, use this one first, the first one. And then whenever, if it makes more sense or sound more natural, you can use of. Okay. Of, I mean, I don't want you to, mm, you know, get confused, but, you know, again, analyzing English first, right? With of. Of is basically, we start with the main noun. And then we use other more vague noun to explain more about it, right? So it goes like this kind of um, order. We start with the most important noun and then other stuff. For example, I was born in Neyagawa, Neyagawa City of Osaka Prefecture of Kansai region or Kinki region of Japan of the earth, right? In Japanese, when you want to say that, it's flipped. We start with the most vague info, going to more specific info, and then the last noun is the main noun. Okay? So we have to say Earth no Japan no Kinki or Kansai no Osaka no Neyagawa. Okay? So again, because it's so completely opposite, I would recommend using this one first so that you at least understand what you want to say in your own language and then paraphrase it. So basically, Earth's, Kansai's, no, Earth's, Japan's, or Japanese, Kansai's, Osaka's, Neyagawa. Yeah. basically using the apostrophe S translation, right? Okay, so that's no. One thing you want to be careful about. So it's been a while, getting tired. Okay, one thing you want to be careful about is, for example, let's say you want to say University of California, right? And you're like, okay, I know of is no, and I do remember that you have to flip the order. So I have to say California, no, university, right? That is correct, but not correct at the same time. Why? Because when you say California no university or 大学, this means university in California, meaning any university in California. It's not talking about this specific university. Why? Because you're blindly memorizing. Again, this one, right? Don't blindly memorize stuff. That's when you make these kind of mistakes, right? So, linguistically, when you use no, right? This one is vague info helping this main info. That's why this one is university in California in United States if you add no, right? Just general information. Um, or in other words, University of California has become or is already an official name of the university, right? It's an official name. We can't take off of and be like University of California. University of California is the official name of the school. In Japanese, the official name of this school in Japanese is California 大学. We don't even have a particle. That's the correct way. If you if you want to say just I guess just remember that if you use no, it's A's B, whatever A is, right? Like California's university. It's just general information, right? Even like Takeshi's pencil. Takeshi could have more than one pencil, right? Doesn't talk about one specific one. Okay. So just remember that if of is part of a name, then and then that name is just one specific name, like one specific college or something, right? Don't use no because no is not for, in that case, having just one specific noun out of many possible nouns. I'm not sure if that makes sense. But basically, for now, just remember university names that has or of, don't use no. No will generalize. Okay. Okay. So we covered most of the noun particles. Okay. The last 5 to 10 minutes, I'm gonna explain briefly how now it will be a lot easier for you to make Japanese sentences. Like I said, um, particle is a huge part when it comes to creating sentences because it gives the function to each noun. Like this noun is the subject. This noun is the object. This noun is place of action. This noun is time or destination, right? Or by means of, or listing nouns with and, or combining two nouns into one noun, or what else? Like saying that this person also, or that kind of stuff, right? We give specific function to the noun that we are connected with, right? So that's why when you think about it, right, how important it is, then you can understand that if you master these particles, then you're pretty much good with making sentences in Japanese. I'll um, show some example. Okay. So easy way to make translate from English sentences into Japanese sentences. Like I said, particles attached to only nouns, right? So take out, identify the nouns, and then verb is at the end of the sentence, right? So make sure you move them, right? Okay. So after this, after we move the verb to the end, now it's the process of solving the puzzle, figuring out which puzzle of particle fits for each noun correctly, right? So when you see the sentence, I ate ramen sushi with Takeshi at 3 p.m. at home, picture that sentence. And then when it comes to picking the right particle, the most important information to figure out which particle for each noun is, you might have already guessed correctly, but the verb, in this case, ate. Verb decides the relationship with the verb with each noun, decides which particle that you're going to have to use. Okay? So whenever you get confused with which particle to use, remember, check the verb and think about the relationship between the verb and the noun that you're confused with. For example, let's start with this one. I, right? I, and the relationship with the verb ate. Yeah, I'm the one who ate, which means I'm the subject. Okay. And let's, usually, the latter information is more important. Topic is more important. So let's emphasize topic. So let's put wa instead of ga. Okay. Ramen and sushi. Well, first of all, this one, ramen and sushi, right? There's, some people do get confused between to and no because to and no both can be between nouns, right? Like to mean and, no to connect two nouns or more nouns into one noun, right? So if you are confused with these, ask yourself, how many entities is it talking about? For example, this one, I ate ramen sushi. Did you eat ramen and sushi mixed together as one meal and ate it? Or did you eat ramen and sushi separately? I hope you ate separately. Two separate entities, right? If it's separate, then we use to, right? Because to is just for listing nouns, right? So with that, okay, ramen to. And then sushi. Remember when we use to, it becomes one group of noun. So with that, we still need a particle after this last noun, right? What is it? Again, check the verb. Ate with ramen and sushi. What's the relationship? Ate and ramen and sushi. Yeah, ramen and sushi is the other food that I ate, right? So those are the objects of eating. So put o. Let's move on to next noun. With Takeshi, right? Takeshi. What's the relationship between ate and Takeshi? I didn't eat Takeshi. That would have been all right object. Takeshi is not the object of me eating. I ate with Takeshi. So Takeshi was with me. So what's that particle that gives the meaning of together with? Again, to, right? Because to has two functions. This together with is the second one. Okay, move on to next now. 3 p.m. Pretty easy, right? I ate 3 p.m. I ate at 3 p.m. That's the specific time. So, ni. Last one, home and ate. I didn't eat home, so it shouldn't be the object by putting o. I ate at home, right? So it's a place. Some people get confused between ni and de, right? What do you ask yourself to figure out which one is correct? How many actions does it take to complete? How many actions for you to complete eating sushi and ramen at home? Well, first you have to be at home, first action, and eat, two actions. Two actions meaning you have to do something at the place of action, event, activity. That. Okay. Now that we put all the correct particles, right? This is basically already Japanese sentence. The only thing we have to do now is translate each noun into Japanese and then the verb ate with the correct conjugation, right? Change that to Japanese and then this will be completely Japanese. But for now, just so that you may be able to understand better, I'm gonna stick with saying the nouns in English. Okay, so it's gonna be like this: I wa ramen to sushi o Takeshi to 3 p.m. ni home de ate. That's already Japanese sentence. And remember we can shuffle the word order too, right? As long as the verb is at the end and particle is, together with each noun. So with that, for example, I can say Takeshi to ramen to sushi o home de I wa 3 p.m. ni ate. Yeah. So these are already Japanese sentences. Does it, do you feel a little bit better? Like it's a lot easier than many people think, making Japanese sentences. And of course, there will be more, grammar points and stuff that will make it complicated, but this is really the most important foundations. I want you to really understand this. So with this, now what's left is knowing the noun so that you can translate each noun into Japanese and then knowing the conjugation, which is another really important. Conjugation and particles are the two most important things to build your foundation of Japanese. So, okay. With that, I think I'll end here. Sorry it took a long time, but I hope this helped. And let me know if you have any questions. Don't talk, don't put anything about my appearance. I'm really sensitive. I get hurt, so please. Thank you.